Hi, my name is Kunle Brown. It's my pleasure welcoming you to Nigerian Academy of Culture Production. And this is Module 1, entitled Oral and African Literature. Now, before we go into the details of the course, I would like us to look at the objectives. There are 3 of them I have here. The first one is for us to see the thin line between African culture and literature. Now, since time immemorial, culture and its dissemination have always been inseparable because it is in transferring into the next generation that it becomes enduring. Though it's often thought that historically writing as an art developed in ancient Egypt, but for most part of ancient Africa, writing came a bit late. Doesn't remove the fact that literature, no matter its so-called raw form, has always been in existence back then, though mainly, as I've said before, in its raw form, but also in its oral form. Now, in our contemporary world of today, when writing began, it leveraged greatly on culture, but it came mostly in form of oral literature, which has somehow enriched our culture in totality. That's the reason why, if you look at the early works of literature from Africa, they mostly explored people's culture, especially its interaction with Western or foreign culture. Now, for most of us, I'm sure you're familiar with the work of Things Fall Apart, written by the man called Chinua Achebe of blessed memory. This falls into that category too. And then incidentally, other African works that came after this man follow the same pattern. I mean, in prose, poetry, and even in drama. And let me just say, the reason is because African culture and literature, unlike what you have in foreign countries, goes beyond entertainment. It serves a functional purpose. That is, it's part and parcel of people's everyday life, permeates every aspect of people's life, unlike what you have in the Western world. Secondly, the objective is to make the students understand the development of African culture and its transition to the contemporary world, leveraging much on culture. What I'm trying to say is that it's important for us to understand the growth of African culture from its raw oral state to what we have today. Now, today we talk of different African-inspired movies and texts, and we see them all over the world in cinemas in the US, in the UK, and different parts of Europe. Now, some of these bestsellers took their inspiration from what we have in Africa, in the text, both oral and written. And I'm sure some of us who have been familiar with some of these works, some of them with African inspirations, African insights, and a movie like Queen of Katwe, for example, Roots, Django, Tula the Revolt, and then the one popular children's cartoon, The Lion King. All these works were inspired by African literature. It's also important for us to understand that more than any time in human history, African culture and literature has taken the center stage such that it has become a source and inspiration for everybody all over the world. And the third objective is to make students appreciate the beauty and relevance of African culture as it relates to our contemporary world through the vista of culture. As the world has become a global village, Africa can no longer live in isolation. So in trying to explore the beauty of African culture, it is also important to look at its growing relevance in our contemporary world. I personally feel that the Western world has exhausted most of its cultural values, which are germane to the sustenance of a society. And that's why the focus will be on Africa now, because it has a rich reservoir of cultural values needed globally. Now, I've had the privilege of meeting many exchange students from different parts of the world. Many of them have come to Yoruba land. Most of them, they're Americans, Britons. They've come to visit and immerse themselves in the culture. To them, I believe, because they have something to learn. I also feel that there are a lot of unexplored opportunities in African culture waiting to be tapped, which will possibly impart the world in fashion, in medicine, commerce, and just name any aspect of human endeavor. Why Yoruba culture will be the template for most of the things I'll be discussing today. Now, let me state that Yoruba nation is spread across the world in places such as southwestern Nigeria, where you have over 50 to 60 million of indigenes. You also have Yorubas in Togo, Benin, Cuba, Brazil, USA, and other Caribbean countries where Yoruba culture has endured for many centuries. And you'll be surprised to discover that throughout human history, they come in different names. They are called Anago in West African sub-region, and then in Caribbeans, they are called Lukumi. Yoruba culture is not better than the other cultures, especially those in Nigeria, but because it has one advantage: it has endured over the years, and it has also evolved to be one of the most organized in terms of literature and then religion and cultures that have been built around it. Now, the second thing is Yoruba people have a rather rich culture that has been sustained for centuries, as I've said, in the food, the dance, ceremonies, and music. And its uniqueness lies in the fact that it has been able to evolve while accommodating the dynamics of a changing world. So you can say that it is at home anywhere in the world. Number three, literature. In the area of literature also, it has suffered the fate of many African cultures in that it did not have a written and documented past, yet it had the privilege of having been exposed to Western culture, and this has been fully taken advantage of by the people. For instance, Yoruba culture was the first that was chronicled into a book, and this book was published by Reverend Samuel Johnson in the work called The History of the Yorubas, published in 1921. And even in our contemporary world also, the likes of Professor Wole Soyinka has also continued the legacy by being the first African to win the Nobel Prize Literature in 1986. What made his case peculiar is that Soyinka is a writer that has leveraged much on Yoruba culture. That is, he has made it his inspiration, and he has made it relevant not only to his generation but to the future generation. Also in the area of music, Yoruba culture also has a rather ear-friendly language, which many of its indigenes have taken full advantage of to dominate the musical world space today. It's not surprising that Lagos State in southwestern Nigeria is often adjudged the music capital of Nigeria, and you will hear people say that if you want to make it big as a musician, then you need to relocate to Lagos. Apart from this, we have exploits of some legendary musicians like Fela Anikulapo Kuti, the creator of Afrobeat, who is globally acknowledged as an icon. And also in our current dispensation, we have the young generation of artists like Davido, Wizkid, and Burna Boy. And what they've done is to tap into the richness of Yoruba culture to enrich their own music, and they're able to sell this to the entire world. Also, on the global stage, the influence of Yoruba culture has even become global in impacting other artists from other climes and cultures. Beyonce's seminal work, Hold Up, was packed with references to Afro-diasporic religion. In the video to that particular music title, Beyonce represented herself as the Yoruba goddess of fertility, Oshun, as she emerged from water wearing a flowing yellow gown, drawing on popular depictions of the deity. Jay-Z, like many hip-hop artists, was also inspired by Fela's music, and in one of his interviews, he actually said that Fela's Zombie is one of his all-time greats. Apart from this, also in visual arts, Yorubas have a culture of preserving itself, and you have this in different galleries all over the world. We have the popular one in Lagos called Nike Art Gallery, which I will invite you to visit anytime you come to Nigeria. And then we have the world acclaimed festival, Osun Osogbo Festival, which has been adopted by UNESCO. And even the site where you have the festival in Osogbo has also been designated UNESCO preserved location. So all these things, you can see that I'm more at home, apart from being Yoruba myself. Yoruba culture encompasses all the best of variables you can find in other cultures all over the world. So can we now say that Africans, because they never had a systematic, organized, written culture, they are not educated? No. It's only that the way they preserve their own culture is different. I mean, it's in oral form. And luckily, some of these aspects, they have been reinvented and used even in contemporary time in many African countries. So you can't actually say that oral literature has died out. It's still relevant to today, and hopefully the world is waiting for many young people to reinvent it and make something creative out of it.